They have a good legal argument. I think their biggest issue will be standing. I think the courts will closely scrutinize. Look, you aren't the competitors to TikToks. You are just investors and competitors with TikTok. So I think they will have a hurdle with standing. However, their argument that the Congress passed a law, either divest or be banned, and the Trump administration kept giving extensions and deadlines is legally sound. You can't have Congress pass a law and then have the executive branch say, never mind, we'll delay this, or we won't enforce it, you guys are fine. So that part of the argument is legally sound, but the tricky part will be for them to establish standing.
So could they reframe the claim up against the administration here so that maybe they do have standing?
I think they're going for a more solid kind of argument here. I think they could get other people to join that would have better standing. So they could, instead of investors who invested in Meta or who invested in Google, the parent company of YouTube, they can bring in Meta and Google that would have better standing. I think the standing issue is just going to play out in court. I think the broader issue that you and I talked about months ago, the more problematic issue that doesn't seem to be addressed in this lawsuit, is that the government can't force divestiture of a company and then just hand it over to political allies. Yeah. For instance, Larry Ellison was a big Trump supporter, right, and he is set to basically inherit TikTok as it has been sort of divested from China, and it's going to be handed over to Larry Ellison as a parent company.
Look, I mean, we have seen CEOs of these companies, call them the S&P 500, the top 10. They come by the white, not just for this administration, for all of the administrations. Is it because it is more obvious, if you will, the so-called kissing of the ring by these CEOs, that there is a more standing, if you will, legally speaking? Because there's always been those very narrow relationships between these big companies and American politicians.
Certainly. So it's nothing new that politicians are, making sweetheart deals for their political supporters in terms of resources, going back hundreds of years. But I think here there's definitely a step that was skipped. Yeah. I mean, the government should say, listen, the government has a natural security interest in not having China, who is a foreign nation, be in control of an algorithm that can affect the behavior, the knowledge, the information that millions and tens of millions of Americans are getting. So that part is legitimate. But then to force a divestiture and hand it over without any sort of public offering or offering it up for a competition, I think is problematic. Again, it's not addressed in this lawsuit. Right. This lawsuit is simply saying, look, you're not enforcing this law and you need to.
Is there a way where this could shift the dynamic of TikTok if, in fact, these plaintiffs succeed?
I think it could shift the dynamics. I think, looking at it from a business perspective, it's a very good strategy to have a hammer or holding a hammer over somebody's head and saying, okay, while you're negotiating, look, I've got this hammer waiting for you. Mm-hmm. If you don't go along with these negotiations, you're going to have it rough in the future. But in terms of legally speaking, that becomes problematic. If you pass a law that's going to be the hammer, you have to act on it. The president can't delay a law that was passed by Congress. You either enforce it or we don't have a government that where the executive branch and the legislature are playing their rightful roles.
Checks and balances and equal division of power here with no supreme authority. I mean, I think we get the point there. Joseph, thank you for the breakdown. We'll see what happens in court. Let's move on now, as there's a new report showing that